cluster frack where everyone does everyone's shows. That's
The Devil's Advocates radio show is broadcast under a time brokerage agreement between Devil Radio and Civic Media, Inc. Some portions of this program may be pre-recorded. Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves and corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening. Now live from the Civic Media Studios in Madison, Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning, welcome to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
And now, here's your hosts, Dom and Crute.
Welcome to the Devil's Advocates radio show live on the road, Chicago, the DNC. And Dominic, we are joined right away by a fine guest, John Fugelsang from the Sirius XM. You know him from the Sexy Liberal Tour.
Oh, God.
John, it's been a few years, but great to see you,
It's
man.
great
Welcome.
I'm really glad you guys are still willing to drag your broadcast down to this level. It's really fantastic.
It's our pleasure. We love to do it. And
Some
you're still looking
guys,
sexy
some
as
of you
ever.
guys come here and you try to get newsworthy people or dignified people of note, and not the devil's out. You guys are willing to just roll in the gutter, and I'm so honored. Thank you for
John.
your low standards in booking.
That
it
is
really
the
means a lot
nicest
to
thing
me.
I've ever heard.
Speaking of rolling in the gutter, how'd the Sexy Liberal show, Chicago, with Stephanie Miller go
So we've
Saturday?
been doing this unholy tour for a few years, as you know. You gentlemen have been subjected to it in the past. We had a great show at the Vic Theater the other night. It was a live streamed as a pay-per-view as well. The tour is me and Stephanie and Hal Sparks and Frangela, and our guests the other night were Governor J.B. Pritzker showed up. That guy, his Chris Walken, whoa, that guy's hilarious. No, J.B. Pritzker, Mark Hamill joined us, Chairman Jamie Harrison,
Nice.
Congresswoman Jan Schakowsky, and Jill Wine-Banks. Those were the special guests for our show the other night, and it was a riot. The crowd was great. I mean, this tour has been... We've been doing this tour for like 13 years, but this year it's been crazy. And for all these dates, it's been the, hey, let's go out there and win it for the old guy tour. Let's get excited for the old guy. We're going to do it. Win this for Joe. And then we had the Sexy Liberal talking each other off a ledge tour for a couple of weeks.
Right.
And now it's the Sexy Liberal, holy crap, what drugs have you people taken that made you this happy, and where can I buy some? It's been exuberant. When we first went up in Atlanta right after the Great Switch, I couldn't believe the crowd response, and you guys have beheld it, and
Yes.
and at every show we've done, we were in New York and did a show, and it was just crazy and joyful, and people who are excited about the ticket, and Joe Biden deserved better. We don't deserve Joe Biden. This old man was not my first choice, but the most legislatively accomplished president of my lifetime. I hate the ageism. Mick Jagger's 80, Keith Richards is 80, Harrison Ford's 80. Martin Scorsese, Robert De Niro, Carole King.
Hey, it's
I
easy
could
to
go
be
on.
young. You know,
Yeah.
it's not easy to be old.
Well, I'm like, I got no problem. Look how much this guy's gotten done. Look at
Yeah.
what this old man has done with the PACT Act and the CHIPS Act and the lowest childhood poverty rate and the lowest unemployment in 50 years. And weed is decriminalized at the federal level. Cannabis has moved to Schedule 3. Infrastructure, the Inflation Reduction Act. You can buy hearing aids over the counter now. I'm like, holy crap, let's get a 100-year-old president, see how much he can get done.
Yeah, but Donald Trump was way better looking than Kamala Harris.
Oh, so much better looking. I have to agree with that because I'm a blindly obedient homoerotic stooge. So, at some point, it's amazing how the homophobes just really like it both ways, isn't it? I mean, this
Yes, they do.
blindly slobbering goober obedience of unmanly subservience. It just, at some point, it's got to be embarrassing, right? Like, they hated us so much because we told the truth about Bush and Cheney. We warned them about Bush and Cheney, and they hated us. They hated us. And then we were proven right about Bush and Cheney, and they hated us even more. And then Man Baby comes along in 2015, and Man Baby tells him, Bush and Cheney lied to you. Iraq was Iraq. Like, you're right. And now, 3 RNCs in a row, and the only other living ex-Republican president is persona non grata again. And they cut Bush and Cheney loose because they're a fickle party. And one guy, man baby, shows up and tells them, and they dropped it. They didn't apologize to us. Now they agreed with us. Now they're calling. Now we're the warmongers.
Yes.
Because they're blaming Joe Biden for what Putin does and what Netanyahu does.
Why were they listening to you then?
But that's the whole thing, right? You look at Elon Musk. He says, I'm going to give Trump $45 million a month. Then he changes his mind 2 days later. A cult of fickle bitches just fickled their bitch. Gentlemen, in 10 years, these Philistines are going to deny they ever supported Trump. They'll say, well, I went for him the first time in 16, but I was done after that. They're going to deny they ever supported this guy in 10 years.
Hope you're right.
Oh, they will. Trust me.
Folks,
They don't believe in anything. They need a ruler, and they will cut him loose. If he wore a Black Lives Matter T-shirt, they'd all leave him right away.
Folks, you're listening to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. We got fine guest John Fugelsang from the Sirius XM, most recently off the Sexy Liberal Tour right here in Chicago, and we find ourselves at the DNC. But Kamala's not going to be here today, John. She's in Milwaukee, making our life very, very difficult.
I know. You got to settle for the Obamas and Bernie Sanders tonight.
I don't know how we're going to get through.
Hope that's going to be enough for you.
Well, couldn't we simulcast? Couldn't we do it both? And I think there is probably going to be some technological effort.
Hey,
we know
look,
it's always hard to travel.
Let me put it this way, okay? If Kamala Harris is giving a speech and it's not being broadcast, at least it'll feel like we're on CNN. So look at it that way.
John, any takeaways so far? Only one day into this extravaganza, but the press relative to, let's say, Cleveland, we're at the RNC in Cleveland. This would have been in a parking garage. That's what they did to like radio and non-networks in Cleveland. We were in a bar.
When was it in Cleveland?
2016 Republican. Now,
Right.
The Philly was a good time. We were on Radio Row there.
In 2016, yeah.
In 2016.
Yeah.
No conventions to attend in 2020. But the difference in tone, even the Hillary convention, I mean, the Dems party, John, the Republicans, they're sour. They're the only thing working is Grindr.
Well, the Republicans are angry. You gotta
conventions.
the Republicans are very angry. You have to understand something. You have to have a little compassion because you see they own this country. Okay, it belongs to them. Okay, their ancestors built it with their own hands. And who are these swarthy types? These academics, these non-whites, these non-Christians, these gay people thinking they can love who they want in a society that brags about liberty. Who are these union types and these immigrants and these educated people and these women's who be thinking too much? Who are these people that are violating the America we were promised we would inherit, that we owned, that our parents owned? And as our white heterosexual, I don't like calling them Christian. They're Christian, but they're not Christ followers, if you know what I mean. There's Christ followers, and there's Jesus Club, and they're in the Jesus Club, and Jesus would not be welcome in Jesus Club. They're becoming smaller and smaller, and as they become less of the majority, and in 2045, people as pasty as me will no longer be the majority population in this country.
Does that scare you, John? Because it doesn't scare
me. They're not going to go gracefully. What scares me is the white people who are not going to go gracefully because they think they own this country. They're the ones flipping out. They're already doing it. I mean, what do you think these bigots are panicking about this hideous great replacement theory? I mean, whatever they can do, they are just trying to keep America as white as they can. The reason why Christianity has declined is not because people don't like God or don't like Jesus or don't like the scriptures. It's because of the hypocrisy of these fascist, flock-fleecing Pharisee frauds. Right-wing Christianity that has taken the teachings of love, the teachings of empathy, the teachings of forgiveness, and they have turned it into a cult, and they got the followers of Jesus to vote against everything Jesus ever talked about.
And they wear that
by
hat.
talking about abortion, which Jesus never talked about.
They have the mega hat. Isn't that the Antichrist? I mean, I'm the non-believer, man. And so I certainly am tuned into the hypocrisy, John.
Well, the Antichrist is all rubbish. These people go for Book of Revelation because Jesus' inconveniently liberal teachings are unpleasant to read. So you will never hear, and I'm saying this to your very attractive listeners, you will never hear MAGA people or right-wing people quoting Jesus. They'll quote parts of the Old Testament. They'll quote St. Paul. They'll quote Book of Revelation. They'll quote Left Behind books and think it's Jesus. They don't quote Jesus because they don't follow him. They hate his teachings. They're not Christian. Jesus says in the judgment of nations, Matthew 25, what he's going to judge people on, and it's not by how mean you were to trans kids. It's not by how much money you gave or how often you went to church. Jesus judges people on how they took care of the poor, took care of the sick, how much they
Immigrants? How about the
welcome
immigrants?
welcome the sick, and how they took care of welcome the stranger, and how they took care of people in prison. That's it. Republicans reject Jesus' marching orders. You don't need to believe in any of this to use it against these frauds and remind them that Jesus is a prop for them, nothing more.
John Fugel saying, our fine guest.
These are by the way, I do this at children's parties. This exact set.
Yeah.
This is what I open
Weddings,
with.
bar mitzvahs.
It's clean. I promise. It's clean comedy. It's all ranting about fascists.
Trump, not always clean. He is doing a little set in Howell, Michigan, a campaign stop today. And I find it interesting because the Nazis were marching through Howell, Michigan, like 3 weeks ago, chanting, "We love Hitler, we love Trump." And I even saw
Where did Ronald Reagan announce his 1980 campaign?
Well, it was in like Philadelphia, Mississippi,
That's
was
correct.
it not?
Exactly right. The folks who get it, get it.
This is a tip of the cap to the white nationalists, is it not,
Yes.
John?
Yes.
And I know Fox News trying to cover for him. Their response was, "Well, Biden went to Howell, Michigan in 2021 to, talk about Build Back Better." And I'm like, yeah, but not 3 weeks after the Nazis were there.
Yeah.
John, do you think this is really am I reading too much?
Is it
No.
as obvious as it seems, in your opinion?
Yes, it's all code talk. I mean, look, Donald Trump can come out and say he renounces Project 2025, but until the media takes the time to ask him which specific parts of it he renounces, he's just renouncing the name. What's in it, he has not refuted. What's in it is what he's fighting for. What's in it is what his hapless followers are fighting for. They don't realize it. That and tax cuts for rich people. And it's funny that he's in Michigan because you look at Man Baby, he has nothing to offer union labor because he hates unions. He's an oligarch, he's an aristocrat, he's a millionaire at birth. He hates organized labor. Hates it. That's why he had undocumented illegals build his hideous tower on Fifth Avenue. Only person in this race, by the way, who's hired undocumented workers in 2 different centuries to avoid paying a living wage to American workers. Democrats, you're allowed to make that point.
Please do.
They won't, but he's in Michigan, and he's been demonizing electric vehicles all year because he has nothing to offer unions. He's a scab. He talks to scab members and tries to make people think it's so he's slamming EVs. Then Elon says, "I'm going to give you a lot of money," and now Donald Trump is okay with EVs because he is a whore who believes in nothing and is advertising that he is for sale.
John Fugel saying, our fine guest, thank you for joining us here at the table at the
Thank
DNC.
you. That's usually the
Now,
line where they ask me to leave, but I'll be here all week, folks.
John, you've got the evening shift, much like we do on WCPT
That's
tonight.
right.
How can people listen to
You
Sirius
can
and hear
listen
you tonight?
live on Sirius XM Progress, channel 127. If you don't have that, our free podcast comes out the next day with the highlights. And I'm up in the Sky booth doing a hockey game play-by-play with this thing. So
Nice.
Thanks for having me,
Thank
guys.
you,
It's
John.
good to see you.
man.
Peace.
Great to see you. We've got another fine guest joining us here at the table momentarily. Paige Gardner, president, founder of PSG Consulting. New polling out. We'll tell you all about it.
The Devil's Advocates, tackling the issues you're not allowed to talk about at the dinner table.
And welcome back to the Devil's Advocates radio show, live from the DNC in Chicago at the United Center. Follow us on the Twitters at Devil Radio. Also on Facebook, the Devil's Advocates Radio.
Got to thank John Fugelsang, our buddy from Sirius XM. Listen to him on channel 127, the Progress channel tonight, or you could listen to us. But we got another fine guest. She has joined us at the table. She is Paige Gardner, president, founder of PSG Consulting. Paige, thank you.
Thank you.
We understand you've got some new polling out, and we want to understand the nature of this polling. It really has to do with women. So why women? Why are you targeting them as a demographic to specifically poll?
Unmarried women is the group of women we targeted because marital status determines whether you register, whether you vote, and how you vote. Just to give an example, they voted for President Obama in 2008. They gave him it was 70%. That was the level of support that unmarried women gave President Obama. So they are an enormous voting bloc. They are now, with Vice President Harris, very motivated. But what we did was look at unmarried women under 55. What was their support for the new ticket? What are their issues? What do they care about? And what motivates them to turn out, but really engage in a bigger way?
Paige, did you by chance ask about cat ownership status?
You know, it was one of the shortcomings of the poll.
So close.
Very close.
Obviously, we have a different demographic that seemingly supports, and I'm talking about female specifically, they seemingly are with the Democratic Party. And I look at the policies of the current Republican Party, and I suspect I know why, but what has your polling shown you? And who do the Democrats need to really work to attract?
Well, they do need to work to attract unmarried women, particularly because they are the majority of women now, and those under 55 are a plurality. But there are things that drive them. And all of the policies, it seems, coming out of the Republican candidates are punitive. Think about abortion. That's a very big issue for them. They really care about being able to decide when and if to have a family, as most Americans do. They also care very deeply about housing. Housing costs are skyrocketing, and because they make less money than married women, particularly, it's a bigger portion of their overall income. So they're struggling with housing, they're struggling with rent, they're struggling with food prices, they're struggling with inflation.
Folks, you are listening to the Devil's Advocates live at the DNC in Chicago. We're here at the United Center, and at the table with us is Paige Gardner, president, founder of PSG Consulting. And Paige, your research is directed towards a lot of the swing states, and I'm from Wisconsin. We care a lot about our state. I see that you've listed Georgia, Michigan, North Carolina, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. I don't see Wisconsin on the list, but these seem to be a lot of the Midwestern states. Do you think that most of your demographics would carry across, let's say, to a state like Wisconsin?
We looked at Wisconsin specifically. There are 640,000 unmarried women who are eligible to vote in that state. They have an enormous power to determine who is elected. Remember the thin margins in 2020. These women can take President Harris over the top line.
Paige, you mentioned 70% of this demographic coming out and supporting President Barack Obama. What's that number now? Do we have a baseline? I mean, that obviously a high watermark there. Where are we at right now? Do you know?
Their margins have improved greatly from when President Biden was in the race, and their margins are in the 60s now.
Okay.
So they have room to grow. Yeah. Right.
Excellent. And what I got to get your opinion, and if maybe it's not a policy thing, but some of the recordings of previous conversations that the Republican vice presidential candidate have come to light, specifically talking about agreeing with a right-wing interview, talking about the one purpose of postmenopausal woman is to take care of the grandchildren. And the guy J.D. Vance, he agreed with that statement. Now that's not a policy issue, but it's certainly something that I think that a lot of people, if you polled single women, would have an issue with. It's not a poll question, but I'd like to get your personal opinion on that.
Many unmarried women don't have grandchildren as they age. So I don't know what they would do with their time. Maybe J.D. Vance can come up with some other ideas. But, these women are so important. And the fact that J.D. Vance and the Republican candidates talk to them and give a flavor or express their wishes about controlling women's lives. And it's not just about abortion. They want to control so many aspects of women's lives.
I think it's a good concept that we hear constantly here at the DNC and the Democrats talking about moving forward and not going back. I think it's the theme that's going to continue to resonate. Any other major findings of this poll that you think are something that we should know about?
These women should be reached and motivated to turn out, and when they do, candidates win elections.
Do we have, and how is that done? I mean, what would be, do you think, the most efficient, effective way to have that outreach?
It's neighbor to neighbor is the most effective way, and then there's the traditional campaign tactics, mail, phone, advertising. But these women really want to engage in a conversation, and community is very important to them.
Paige, did you differentiate in your polling between women of color and let's call them Caucasian women?
Yes, and women of color are huge unmarried women of color are a huge backbone of unmarried women in this country. And their support for the Democratic ticket is very, very strong, much stronger than overall.
Excellent. Very informative. Paige Gardner, president and founder of PSG Consulting. I'm not always great at enunciation. You wouldn't believe they give me a radio show, Paige.
Yeah, a couple of us have had that problem.
It's been a long week, and it's only
Yes.
Tuesday. Paige, so nice to meet you. Thank you so much for joining us here at the DNC. We are the Devil's Advocates, and we anticipate Earl Ingram joining us, and maybe even the Democratic Party chair of the great state of Wisconsin. I hear he's in the building, might dip over. And my senator, Diane Hesselbein from Middleton. So, big show. It's always fun when we're on the road. Thank you, Paige Gardner. More Devil's Advocates live at the DNC.
The Devil's Advocates. Never personal, only politics.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates radio show live at the DNC. We're at the United Center in Chicago. It is a cavalcade of political stars up in here, Dom. We want to thank the fine pollster, Paige Gardner, our most recent guest from PSG Consulting. And we got another fine guest at the table. She is my Senator Diane Hesselbein. She is the Senate Minority Leader from the great state of Wisconsin. Diane, so great to see you.
It is so great to see you
Chicago.
too, Mike. Oh my gosh, it's fantastic to be here.
And you just got here, so you don't have the hangover like some do. But
Do not.
you made the breakfast this morning, which is so good because I did not get up
You
for
did make
today's.
the breakfast?
I didn't make. Yesterday, I missed Tim Walls. I
What
was
were you-
there.
How did you do that?
They discouraged us as press. They're like, "Oh, we're overbooked. You don't get a chair. You're going to have to stand in the penalty box.
Oh man,
You don't want to come." There's
Diane,
just
he
question-
had one job.
one job. That was the
And I
press
blew it.
job.
And
The
I
press
blew it.
job. Yeah,
and today
Mark Kelly.
I got up early and then I went back to bed.
Okay. Well, you missed Mark Kelly. He was fantastic. They had a lot of great speakers. Sarah Godlewski spoke, of course. She's great.
Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear, I hear, was very good.
Fantastic. Yeah, it was fun to see them in person, right? Because you
Yeah.
never know. They always seem bigger. Like, I don't know why, but then you see them like, oh,
Mark
they're
Kelly
actually-
is not a large man. We saw him out here in the hallway yesterday.
Yeah.
He's like my size.
I know,
You gotta be
right?
little, getting the cockpits and the,
Right,
and the
absolutely.
rocket ships and
Good,
all that.
And they're all in good shape too. So there
Yes,
you go.
yes, of course.
They are. Every speaker here. It's a thing.
Is that a thing? Because I didn't know. I should have been traded.
Look around.
So, Diane, everybody knows, and it's crazy. I watched J.D. Vance in Kenosha, Wisconsin, and J.D. Vance is saying it's all about Wisconsin. Of course, the Democrats are also in Wisconsin today. Kamala Harris is doing a rally in Milwaukee. I'm very twisted. I want to be at both events,
So
but
do I.
Wisconsin, it's the center of the universe. And, top of the ticket, we love Kamala Harris. But it's also the first time we've had fair maps in the state of Wisconsin in over a decade. How optimistic are you about the legislative races this cycle?
I am super optimistic. This is the first time that I haven't had to recruit a candidate. They came to us, and it was multiple
nice.
people saying, I
Yeah.
know, right? We're like, could you please run? Would you please consider running? This time it was, I want to run. This is my platform. This is who I am, and this is why I make a difference. And we have great candidates running in every single corner of the Senate, in every single district for the first time in over 20 years. And why? Because we finally have fair maps, and people know they have a shot at getting in.
Diane, I'd love to call you Majority Leader Hesselbein.
I would love to be called that as well.
It would take a hell of a miraculous miracle in this cycle because half the senatorial races are on
That
the
is
map.
correct.
All the assembly races, but half the Senate races. Where are the ones we should pay attention to as political observers?
So I would definitely say for the Senate, we're up, like you said, every 4 years. So we're not going to get to the majority for another 2 years. And so we have a plan to do that. We're looking really hard, working hard with Jamie Wall up in Green Bay. He's a fantastic candidate. He grew up on a farm, and he was one of the first people in his family to go to get higher education and go to school. He graduated, was a Rhodes Scholar, wants to live in Green Bay to give back to the community, and he wants every other farm kid to have that opportunity. It kind of really tugs at your heartstrings.
Yeah.
We have Kristen Elfine in the Appleton Oshkosh seat. That's a really great seat for us. She and her wife have been working hard every single weekend, talking with voters and listening to hear their priorities. We also have Sarah Kieski. That's like in the Sauk, Columbia, and Dane County. Goes all the way into Madison. She's a first-time candidate, mental health provider. She's running against Joan Balwig. The last time a
That'd be
Republican...
That'd
an
be great.
important pickup.
Yes, we'd be happy.
That would the last Republican to win that seat was 1998, and that was Tommy Thompson. Finally, we have Jody Haber-Sinekin. She's running against Dewey Strobel in that Milwaukee area, and she's doing a fantastic job as well. So I'm excited for all four of these candidates, and of course, we have to keep Brad Paff. He's our really
Lacrosse.
protect. Yes, lacrosse area.
Our buddy. We like Brad.
Oh, I love Brad. He's fantastic. He does more for agriculture than probably anybody else in our caucus, and explaining what things are and what we need to do.
Well, Diane, here in Chicago, we've got to set a good example. When Dom and I joined the Wisconsin contingent at their hotel in Philadelphia, the last night they brought all the leftover beer out in the lobby.
Oh, fantastic.
And the Wisconsin contingent literally partied till like 6 a.m. Are you prepared, Senator, to represent?
Man, I am pretty lame, I'll be honest. I know you guys were up late, and I'm looking at tonight going, how late are these speeches going to go? And then there's a party after this? And
Right.
there's
They're
all
gonna go.
sorts
They're
of
gonna
stuff.
go late, but it's gonna be worth it. Come on, Kamala Harris in Milwaukee. They're going to show that here in Chicago.
Maybe. I hope so.
That's what I'm
That would
seeing.
be
That's what I'm
fun.
hearing.
And then the
fun.
Obamas.
And then the Obamas.
I know the Obamas. I'm so excited.
And they're
going to
play the Obama speeches in the Pfizer Forum with the live audience there. I think it is a wonderful, brilliant
That's a brilliant
stroke.
move. Oh my gosh, that's fantastic. So everybody can see the Obamas. Perfect.
And it involves Wisconsin in the DNC. You know what I
Absolutely.
mean? That's the one Milwaukee really didn't get. Well, you kind of
I
get
know.
you get Kamala on the Tuesday of the DNC this time.
You get a little taste.
Absolutely. It's fantastic. I'm so excited for her race. I'm so glad she's at the top of the ticket. And my girls, I tell you, age 22 and 25, they are just over the moon excited to vote for her.
Well, I can tell you there's a much better chance my 18-year-old will vote for Harris than vote for Biden. So we're moving in the right direction. We'll see.
Enthusiasm is there. It's
Yeah, it
palpable,
certainly
and I
is.
see it everywhere.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
It's a sea change.
Yeah.
Senator Hasselbein, so great to see you. Thank you so much for joining us here at the table. We're trying to sneak our friend Earl Ingram in. and-
Absolutely. Thanks for letting me pop on for a little
Thank
while.
you,
Yeah,
Dave.
It's
it's
great to
great to
see
see
you.
you.
Awesome. Have a great time.
Hey, thank you so much.
All right.
We'll see you at the party.
We'll see.
We'll see.
care.
State Senate Minority Leader Diane Hasselbein from Middleton, Wisconsin. Always great to see her. And we're going to have our pal Earl Ingram sneak over to the table. Come on down, Earl Ingram. The man, the myth, the legend. Earl has been getting famouser since he's been here at the DNC in Chicago. I just saw Earl. I was standing out in the lobby with Earl, and Governor Tony Evers of the great state of Wisconsin comes by. He doesn't say hi to Crute, does he, Earl? He says hi to Earl.
Well, since this is Throwback Tuesday, man, it's good to see you guys, man.
Great to see you, Earl.
Thanks for the invite.
Earl, of course, is broadcasting on the mornings, 8 to 10 a.m. on Civic Media's own WAUK 540 and other local markets. Check your local listings. Earl, I saw you, with Jesse Jackson out there, man? Jesse Jackson is a local hero here in Chicago. The whole lobby was a flutter when Jesse came in, and he was in a wheelchair. They were helping him get to his feet. But, Earl, you were right there, man. You know Jesse. You've interviewed Jesse.
Well, he's been on your airways when we were at over on Brady
When you're
Street.
broadcasting, they were your airwaves, Earl.
Well, yeah, but man, you got to think he's the guy who paved the way for Barack Obama. People don't often think about it, but in 1984,
Rainbow Coalition.
Yeah, Jesse Jackson sparked energy and actually got more people signed up to vote than almost anybody in history. So, Jesse Jackson is an icon. The person that we see now is still an icon. He always will be. And I got to know him personally, and just to see him again is a highlight, man. It really is.
And Earl, you got to interview Martin Luther King Jr.'s grandson earlier today. Martin Luther, or was it his son?
His son,
Oh, so
Martin Luther King III. And
how was that, Earl?
man, it's amazing because I always tell people I was 14 years old when Dr. King was moving. I was old enough to see it and be a part of it, and watching the civil rights struggle develop and the push of it as a young boy. And so, I kind of lived my life. I watched Dr. King and I emulated him with being a servant. I served because I saw him serve. And so, he lives in me every day. Not a holiday, but every day. And so when I saw his son, when I saw his son, son is not him, but, he's still that bloodline, man. And it's an honor to be able to have an opportunity to speak with him.
Folks, you're listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. We got a fine talk radio host in his own regard. He is Earl Ingram of the Earl Ingram Show. Plays out in Milwaukee, and you grew up in Milwaukee, a lifelong Milwaukee resident. Earl, I went to the Republican press conference over at Trump Tower yesterday featuring U.S. Senator Ron Johnson. And I
That's
believe,
your guy, man.
well, the other,
We had a rough
Used
breakup.
to be.
it's complicated, Earl. Since January 6th, it's real complicated. But he was there with Rick Scott, and a nice Bloomberg reporter, I'd met her a couple times, sitting next to me, asked, how can Trump attract black voters? And Ron Johnson got up and said, well, we're the party of Lincoln. And we, the Republican Party, don't look at the color of the skin. We're like MLK. We look at the contents of their character. And when I heard Ron Johnson quoting MLK, it just didn't sound right coming out of his mouth.
Quoting or misquoting? well, number one. So, and I wanted to put that to rest about them appealing to the black community. I think about 2 weeks ago, I wanted to address the issue that blacks are starting to lean towards voting for Republicans.
Yeah, they've been claiming that.
Yeah, so there's this office in Milwaukee, right in the heart of Black Milwaukee.
On North Avenue.
Yeah. And so I go there, and I said, well, I'm going to find out for myself. So I go, I knock on the door. I said, my name is Erling. We know who you are. I said, well, I want to see if I can get you on the air, right? We want to find out whether or not it's true that more and more blacks are voting Republican. And so when I got there and I asked him, the guy says, well, I said, can I get you to come on the air? You guys say you're in our community. You're saying that more and more blacks.
What day did you go down there? The Tuesday of the RNC? They bothered to open the joint up?
So the guy says, okay, well, what do you want to talk about? I said, I want to talk about the fact, man, that you guys are saying more blacks are going to be voting Republican. And so to make a long story short, I was able to get one guy to show up. He came to my show on last week, a week before last, and I got him on and started interviewing him. And he says, well, Donald Trump has done a lot for the black community. I said, name one thing he's done.
Tax cuts.
And the guy
Hey, Errol, hate to interrupt, but we've got the fine Democratic Party chair.
Oh, man, I acquiesce.
No. Ben Wickler, please join us here at the table if you're able. He's setting his watch. He's on a short time frame, but we want to say hi to the Democratic Party chair of the great state of Wisconsin.
How can you not say hi to Mr. Ben Wickler?
Yes, absolutely. We'll squish together here. Ben, welcome to the party.
Thank you so much, Mr. Crute. Thank you, gentlemen.
Ben,
Happy with you, Earl.
You've been the bell on the ball here in Chicago, I guess we are. Wisconsin is definitely on everybody's mind this week, isn't it, Ben?
Oh, absolutely. Wisconsin, everywhere. So today we're going to have our cheeseheads on. And just walking through the hall, wherever I go with the cheesehead, people get excited. They start talking about Wisconsin. They know the greatest state. They also know the state that, tips presidencies.
Right.
So this is the path to the White House goes through America's Dairyland.
And tonight, the Vice President, Kamala Harris, and her Vice Presidential nominee, Tim Walz, they're going to be in Wisconsin. That makes for tough decisions.
What do you do, Ben? What do you do?
We got a roll call to manage here in the United Center in Chicago, so I am going to be here, but there are going to be thousands of screaming, excited Wisconsinites in Fiserv Forum, right where Donald Trump decided that J.D. Vance was his ticket to ride. And I think there's going to be a real contrast, just rolling the tape between what happened in hour 3 of Trump's acceptance speech on that Thursday night versus what we're going to see for Harrison Walz in Wisconsin. And then they'll come here to Chicago, and everyone's going to erupt. It's going to be really exciting.
Ben, my understanding, Tammy Baldwin, Senator Baldwin, to give a speech from the stage this evening.
That may be true. I don't have the specific information about
Trust me, Ben.
All right,
I wouldn't
trust
make
you.
it up.
I
wouldn't
believe
make
you.
it up.
Well, then I look forward to it. I think she's going to be great.
I think she will as well. Ben, obviously, everyone's talking about Wisconsin. J.D. Vance on the I'm Stalking the Vice President tour. He's in Kenosha today. And first of all, his reaction to the DNC last night, let me quote here, boo. That was his direct quote. What did you think about the DNC? Boo. And anyways,
they've chosen the most powerful, compelling spokesperson. I hope they keep him in the spotlight. This is my message to them. Just keep going with this guy.
Do more of that.
Do more of that, yes. Send all the cameras to J.D. Vance so that especially women can see what the Republican Party thinks of the people whose vote it should be seeking.
And Ben, I was at the Republican presser with Ron Johnson yesterday. I don't know if you heard, but Ron thinks it's very difficult to be a billionaire.
Oh, yeah. It's just, I cry. I cry every night for the billionaires it's so hard for them because they don't pay the same taxes as their secretaries. So they feel this deep sense of shame. And of course, they could just pay their taxes, but instead they don't. So then they feel bad and we have to feel sorry for them. That's totally understandable. Yeah.
Ben Wickler, we know we only had you for a minute. We appreciate you joining us. Democratic Party of Wisconsin Chairman Ben Wickler. We hope to see you later in the week, Ben.
Delight to be with you. Look forward to next time.
Yeah, thanks for saying hi, Ben.
Thanks
so
Ben.
much, guys.
We are the Devil's Advocates live at the DNC. We'll come back with our pal, Earl Ingram. More of us. Stick around.
The Devil's Advocates, making radio great again.
And welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show live from the DNC in Chicago, the United Center. Follow us on Twitter at Devil Radio. You can check us out on the Facebookies at the Devil's Advocates Radio.
And want to thank Ben Wickler, the Democratic Party of Wisconsin chairman. And want to thank our pal Earl Ingram for being a little flexible, our colleague in broadcast. Earl broadcasts 8 to 10 a.m. every weekday right here on the Civic Media. And Earl, we appreciate you sticking around, man. You got to be a little twisted. Kamala's going to Milwaukee, and here you are. Here I am. I'm also twisted. I wanted to do a doubleheader. I wanted to go see Kamala Harris. I mean, it's in our backyard, Earl.
You know, man, I'm still just blown away by what has transpired, man. You know, Kamala Harris was kind of nondescript.
Like 7 weeks ago or 6 weeks ago, right?
For these almost 3 years, you know, Kamala Harris was someone who was basically, I hate to say it, but she wasn't very visible.
It kept on the sideline. It's not her administration; it's the Biden administration.
Well,
right?
That's absolutely the case, and there were people who said that they wanted to make sure that she wasn't seen and invisible, and so it led people to believe that she wasn't a very bright person. I don't know how you can ever think that somebody who has held the offices that she's held wasn't a bright person.
But you've interviewed her. You know
yes.
Kamala Harris. You've had her, 3 times, Earl?
Well, but Kamala Harris she's a very, very bright woman. Yes, she giggles. And I, you know.
Only when she's talking to you, Earl.
No, there were times when I even thought, hey, come on, man. You know, the vice president.
I know. I laugh a lot, man. I love to laugh. Laughing's good, man. Laughing's is joyful.
I know, but I never use that as to think that it would meant that it impacted her intellect.
All right. Well, she's not intelligent because
right.
of that, yeah.
That she's a very, very bright woman, man, to get reelected, you know, in the biggest state in the nation. Come on.
Biggest, most populous, and the 5th largest economy in the world.
Yeah.
I mean, that's something. And then to be senator, and then to again elect statewide elections, right? And then to be vice president. You know, the GOP, the MAGAs are just losing their mind over it.
Well, you know, man, I didn't think that it was going to be. To be honest with you, I didn't think that the nation was ready. That it was going to come this soon. That a woman, not just a black woman, but a woman, was going to be this position to possibly become the president of the United States.
What are you talking about? You forget about Hillary Clinton?
Yeah, but you saw what happened to Hillary Clinton.
She
right?
lost marginally in a couple of electoral college.
Well, but I think I read something where 53% of women didn't vote for her, or some outlandish number because women didn't feel connected to her in some way, shape, or form. I think they were intimidated by the type of person Hillary Clinton was.
Well, she was a powerful woman, but she was also torn down by Fox News for 15 years. And the difference, I think, with this campaign, they got 77 days, do your worst. You know, you don't have 15 years to build this sort of monologue about Kamala Harris. And most of what I see the right trying to throw as mud against Kamala Harris's record or whatever else, it ain't sticking, Earl.
Well, you see all these powerful women moving around here politically?
You don't see that at the RNC.
No, but this used to just be men,
right.
The good
Big
old
sausage
boys.
Party. Yeah.
But look at all the brilliant women that are around and well-educated. And they've been waiting for this opportunity.
They've been working for this opportunity, right?
Yes, and so they are organized. They are going to vote overwhelmingly to support Kamala Harris. And I don't know how the Republicans are going to be able to overcome that, because the only thing Donald Trump can do is attack. And if he attacks her from the perspective of being a woman, they're further and further alienating women who outnumber men.
Keep digging the hole.
Right.
Keep digging the hole. Keep doing more of that. Earl Ingram Jr., our fine guest for just a couple more minutes. Earl, the National Association of Black Journalists, and I forget the lady's name, she did a great job. Her very first question to Donald Trump when he decided to show up for that disaster of a whatever that was. I thought laid it out. Laid out all the history of things that Donald Trump had said about black people, about black journalists, about black judges and black politicians, and why should black people trust you now? And he had no response to that. It was you're nasty. You're nasty. I came here in good faith. Where's my opponent? You're nasty. That's not going to my opinion, Earl, win over any converts in the black community.
Well, those of us who've been around a while, a few days older than dirt, we understand, man, who Donald Trump is. And Donald Trump is a person that he's been, that I've known or known about for over 50 years. And he certainly has done nothing to endear himself to people of color. What he's counting on, younger blacks in their 20s and their 30s, and he throws a bone. And the Republican Party is throwing a bone to some of them. They argue and say that the Democratic Party is not giving us an opportunity. I talked to some of them, and so they're leaning towards that. But they're the exception, they're not the rule, and so not to worry.
Earl Ingram, I believe it was Rachel Scott from ABC that asked the questions on behalf of the NABJ of Donald Trump, and he called her a nasty woman, didn't like her much. Earl, any other big stuff happening this week? You got anyone scheduled people can tune in for? They should know about?
Well, man, listen, I'm here, man, and it's always great to be around you guys, and so I don't need to think about tomorrow. I'm thinking about right now sharing the microphones with you guys.
The third interview being played?
Oh, Dr. Martin Luther King the third. We had a 15-minute interview with him that we'll be playing back tomorrow or the day after. I'm really excited about it.
Make a choice. It's tomorrow, or
we'll
it's the day
find
after.
out.
How are we going to promote it for you?
Hey,
you better listen every day.
All right. It's great to be with you guys as always,
Thanks,
man. Thank you for the opportunity.
Great to see you. Earl Ingram, host of the Earl Ingram Show on Civic Media. Listen for him on WAUK. We got a fine guest. He is the Attorney General of the great state of Wisconsin, Josh Call. He joins us at the DNC next, right here in Chicago at the United Center. More Devil's Advocates. You're listening right now.
Yesterday by the red hat. Like, people started shooting me text right away. Michael Cohen's here walking around. Trump lawyer. Yeah, go get him. I gotta run your show.
And we're at the top of the hour right now? What's happening? Yes, okay. We got like 5 minutes yet. Cool?
Yeah. I saw you guys had, was it, I don't know if he's an Oscar award winning actor or who it was. Was there somebody who
Fugelsang?
Yeah, Fugelsang.
He's a funny guy. He does stand up.
Oh, does he?
But he used to co-host America's Funniest Videos with Daisy Fuentes.
Okay.
There was that
How are you? Good to see you.
co-hosted that.
How are things? Good. Yeah. You guys having fun?
We are.
You got no shortage of content.
It's been, well, especially when people walk by.
Yeah.
It makes it a lot more entertaining.
Yeah.
And then they got the speeches at night, so it's a lot of hours, but
because of all the buses, like once you come over, it's like you're making a commitment to be here for a while. So I'm like,
you're gonna dart in and
talk
out.
to everybody if I can. So.
You know, Suzanne?
Yeah, she's in our office.
Yeah, she's here. I guess she's down here.
Oh, really?
She reached out. She's a friend of ours from back when she ran for
Yeah.
So come party with us tonight.
Oh, that's great.
Where's the party? Her husband's a really cool citizen.
Yeah, well, I know they're motorcyclists. Yeah. So, yeah. So she's the head of the criminal litigation unit at DOJ. Have you met her replacement PA who you spoke with? I really like her. She's I don't think she's likely to. I mean, I shouldn't say. I don't know. I think she's happy where she is, but she's a scientist, so it's always interesting to talk to her because we work on crime lab stuff and. She's great to work with because like our scientists love her, and then they like go talk about science. Like that stuff. Yeah. So I joke with them about how I'm not a scientist when I play them on TV. Talk about the crime lab, but they're actual scientists. When's your away? Okay. Yeah, I can sit down. We drove down early yesterday morning. So.
Turkey sub, Josh. The facility, the GM of the facility, she was real friendly.
The Devil's Advocates radio show is broadcast under a time brokerage agreement between Devil Radio and Civic Media Inc. Some portions of this program may be pre-recorded. Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves and corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening. Now live from the Civic Media Studios in Madison, Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning, welcome to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
And now, here's your hosts, Dom and Crute.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show, a happy hour indeed, live from the DNC, the United Center in Chicago.
Good job,
Don,
Brady.
we got a fine guest who's joining us at the table right now. He's the Attorney General of the great state of Wisconsin, our friend Josh Call. Welcome back, Josh.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Hey, Josh, good to see you,
Well,
man.
thanks for being patient and working us in. You know, you political sorts. What do you do here at a convention? I know it's your first, but what have you done here, Josh?
Yeah, well, it's been great. You know, there is incredible energy and enthusiasm among Democrats around the country. I knew there was in Wisconsin, and it's clear that it is around the country because of all the excitement behind the Harris-Walz ticket. But it's been great to connect with folks who, I've seen some of my fellow AGs from around the country, a lot of folks from Wisconsin and other states. There's been a lot of discussion about policy issues. You know, last night we heard from some women from some states where access to abortion was being blocked and the impact it had on them. We've, of course, heard from a lot of candidates about their vision for the next administration and for the future. So it's a good opportunity to connect with people, to talk about issues, and to organize behind the Harris-Walz campaign.
Well, the Attorney General job doesn't always get the same prominence as, let's say, a governor. But since Kamala Harris has been the new nominee, suddenly the AG is in vogue, is it not?
Well, you know, Bill Clinton is a former AG also, but no.
That was a long time ago, Josh.
I don't think he served very long as AG either, but, look, first of all, I think one of the things that you've seen in this race is that her background as an AG and as a DA has played a key role in her success. She is litigating the case against Donald Trump, and it couldn't be a clearer contrast between the two of them. On top of that, as an AG, I've had the opportunity to speak to a number of people who themselves are former AGs who served with her. And for years, I've known that her colleagues hold her in the highest regard and think incredibly highly of her. And let's be honest, she did not always get the best press when she was vice president. Neither did Joe Biden, by the way. And it was always interesting to me that what I had heard from her colleagues and what I had seen in the interactions that I had with her was so different from what was portrayed in the press. She was outgoing, she was engaging, she was engaged in issues substantively, and actually just before the Dobbs decision came down overturning Roe, she brought several AGs around the country together, including me, to talk to us about what we were doing to prepare if Roe was overturned and how we could protect reproductive freedom in our states. She's somebody who was seeing where this was going and wanted to make sure she was available to help and to engage people. It turned out that was the day before the Dobbs decision was issued. And as you know, we lost access to safe and legal abortion in Wisconsin for 15 months. We fought back against that, and we've now restored it. But she was actually back in Wisconsin in August of 2022, working just in advance of the elections there. And she talked about that issue and how she had our back in that case. This is somebody who's been engaged, and what's been great over the last month is to see the whole country see her through the same lens that I had in the work that I've done and through conversations. She's a leader. She's ready to lead this country. She's running an outstanding campaign, and I think we're going to see this energy continue for the next 2.5 months.
Folks, we've got Josh Call, the fine Attorney General, great state of Wisconsin, here, Devil's Advocates, live at the DNC. I think I first got to meet Kamala Harris. She was Senator Harris then. She came to Wisconsin in 2018, and maybe she campaigned for you, Tony Evers, and Tammy Baldwin, if I recall. But I got to meet her and interview her briefly, and I found her to be very intense. I had never interviewed someone that had that much intensity for a 3-minute interview. personally, I think the characterizations I've seen on Fox News and right-wing talk radio are ludicrous. In no way is she anything other than this intense, intelligent human being. But what's your personal experience, Josh?
100% consistent with what you were saying. And I mentioned the example about how she brought folks together. I'll give you another example. I met with her on the tarmac several months ago, and there was an issue that was important to public safety in Wisconsin, which is that we're facing significant cuts in what's called VOCA funding, Victim of Crime Act funding. That provides a lot of the resources for victim service programs that help people who are victims of domestic violence or sexual assault or other crimes get the support that they need as they work through the justice system, or not, but getting the support that they need. So I raised that with her, and she immediately said, oh, yeah, I know about that program. I worked with it when I was AG. Well, I saw her about a month later at another tarmac meeting, and I'd wanted to follow up with her, but she was prepared. She had done some follow-up. She knew what was going on federally, wanted to talk about it, and made clear that she knew how important that issue was. It's another good example of her being on top of the issues. And I just to put this in perspective, I want you to imagine Donald Trump in that same situation. Now, there is no chance that Donald Trump knows that program exists. If he did, he certainly wouldn't be following up. He might be wondering how he could profit off of it, just based on how he approaches everything else. But this is somebody who is prepared to lead and who's got the experience that we need in the White House.
Folks, you're listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Josh Kaul, Wisconsin's Attorney General, joining us at the desk in Chicago at the DNC. Josh, thanks for making some time for us. The vice presidential candidate, J.D. Vance, is in Kenosha talking about crime. And I think this is something you know a little bit about, Josh. My understanding, if it wasn't for the actions of the president at the time, Donald Trump, Kenosha would be nothing more than a pile of smoldering ashes. Crime has been a topic of conversation pushed from the right. But my understanding, Josh, and how about you tell me, a lot of the crime statistics have gone down under this administration.
You know, it's a funny thing when you get rid of chaos leading the country like we had under Donald Trump. It has a big impact. But first, let me say this. We talked a little bit about Kamala Harris's background before. This is somebody who was a DA in a major county prosecuting serious crimes. She was the AG of the largest state in the country, and she held people who committed mortgage fraud accountable and worked to recover resources. She is somebody who knows public safety issues. She's a former prosecutor. And then on the other hand, you had J.D. Vance in Milwaukee last Friday, and when he was talking about public safety, he suggested people watch the movie Gangs of New York. So on the one hand, you've got a former prosecutor, and on the other hand, you've got a ticket with one guy who's seen Gangs of New York and another guy who's seen Silence of the Lambs and can't stop talking about it. It's pretty obvious which ticket is better on public safety, but you don't just need to rely on that. Look at the statistics, as you said. When Donald Trump was president, shootings and homicides went up dramatically. Now, that was partly because of the pandemic, there's no question, but Donald Trump wasn't helping with the pandemic, and his budgets consistently attacked funding for public safety. Republicans right now are attacking funding for public safety in Congress. With Biden-Harris, we've seen a drop in shootings, a historic drop in homicides, and investment in public safety, often trying to battle with Republicans in Congress. And so, having that kind of leadership with Biden and Harris has made a big difference. And then last, as I mentioned at the beginning, having leadership that's steady and consistent and reliable, that helps. Having somebody who is volatile and unpredictable and attacks the justice system and the Department of Justice and the FBI whenever they do something that he doesn't like for political reasons, that's not good for the rule of law, and it's not good for public safety.
Josh, election safety. We know that Donald Trump has, in fact, attacked the outcome of the last election. We know
and continues to do so.
We know there have been some charges filed, and I know you probably aren't going to, unless you would like to talk about an open investigation, Mr. Attorney General, but I assume no. But here's my question, sir. How do we protect the next election? Because every indication is he didn't learn anything. There's been no successful prosecution, no trial going to happen between now and Election Day. Josh, how do we, A, keep election workers, even Megan Wolf, safe in the state, and B, what's the role of the Attorney General in making sure things go well from a non-chaotic point of view this fall?
Yeah, well, first, let's talk about Donald Trump.
Those investigations, if you'd like, Mr. Attorney General.
Let's focus on Donald Trump. So he said that an Emmy he didn't. I forget if it was that he didn't get nominated or he didn't win, but he said that was rigged. When he lost the Iowa caucus to Ted Cruz, he said that was rigged. He said the 2016 election was going to be rigged, and then he won it, and he still kept saying it was rigged. And then in 2020, he said it was rigged. So I think we know where this is headed with Donald Trump. But here's the good news. In 2020, there was a real concerted effort to overturn the results of our election. There was also a lot of concern before the election that there would be voter intimidation at the polls. So we made clear what the law is on voter intimidation, and it's a crime. We made clear that people are going to be held accountable if they tried to intimidate people, because that's our constitutional right we're talking about, and every voter who's eligible should be able to freely and fairly cast a ballot. We're also going to make clear as we head into this election that intimidating election officials, threatening election officials, can be a crime. And if people commit that crime, if they cross the line, they're going to be held accountable. Now, on the post-election, we're prepared for the attacks. We had an effort to overturn the results in 2020. There were several lawsuits filed. My administration defended against those suits, and we won every single case, just like cases across the country were won. If Donald Trump and his allies try to overturn the results again, or if anybody else does, but I think we know who's likely to be doing it, we're going to defend the results again, and I'm confident that the will of the voters will be upheld again, because the facts and the law are going to speak for themselves. And, what's interesting is we have a lot of elections in Wisconsin. We don't just have presidential elections. We just had a primary. Nobody's going around saying the results can't be trusted or our system doesn't work. There were Republicans who lost primaries, because the reality is we all know the system works. If it's a few hundred vote difference, maybe you do a recount and you see if there's a small change. But fundamentally, the system works. And it's only when Donald Trump is on the scene that people are complaining. So if you hear Republicans saying the system doesn't work, where have they been for the last 4 years? Why haven't they been challenging these results?
The system only works when they get elected and they win, even if it's the same election they're saying the president didn't win. It doesn't make any sense.
Well, they just got clobbered on a couple amendments, and they're not challenging those results because those are the results that the voters voted for.
Are you sure there wasn't anything untoward in that Janelle Brandon race? Because she only lost by 30 points.
Even Janelle Brandon, I don't think, has said that there was anything wrong in that race. She certainly said a lot about the Trump election.
I guess everything has been fixed then.
There you go.
Josh Call, the very fine Attorney General of the great state of Wisconsin, friend of ours. Josh, I hope you enjoy your Democratic convention right here in Chicago. Don't forget the Devil's Advocates. We'll be partying until late, sir.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Thank you, Josh. More Devil's Advocates. We've got the president of the AFL-CIO joining us next. I hope you stick around.
When they go low, we get high. The Devil's Advocates.
And welcome back to the Devil's Advocates radio show live from the DNC in Chicago, the United Center at the table with Crute. You can join us on the lines at 844-967-2789. Of course, make sure you check out the socials at Devil Radio on Twitter and the Devil's Advocates Radio on the Facebooks.
Dom, we are live here at the DNC. Just had a fine guest, our Attorney General in the great state of Wisconsin, Josh Call, and he was showing us his sense of humor after the interview. He said, you're the first one ever to ask me about
Can you confirm or
ongoing
deny
investigations.
a sealed indictment against Senator Ron Johnson?
He would not. He would not.
Hey, man, he's got to ask.
We've got to ask. He does not have to answer, but we appreciate you, Josh. Thanks for coming around, man. We're expecting Liz Schuler from the AFL-CIO, president thereof. Hopeful that she'll be joining us here shortly, Dom. And don't forget, we're doing the coverage all night long right here on the Civic Media Network. We'll be doing it on WCPT 820 AM out of Chicago and KTNF 950 AM out of Minneapolis. But the encouraging part, Bill Press joining us in the 7 o'clock hour tonight.
Oh, yeah.
Our good friend Bill Press going to be at the table for an hour straight. And then Penny Vasquez is going to join us 8 to 10. We've got a Kamala Harris rally in Milwaukee. We'll try to dip in and bring you some of the sound of that. And, of course, we got Barack and Michelle Obama. Second gentleman, Doug Emhoff. Got a lot of big speeches tonight. You're going to have to tune in all night long. Devil's Advocates doing it as only we can, Dom. But earlier today, I was monitoring the affairs in the great state of Wisconsin.
Yeah.
And J.D. Vance did a little presser in Kenosha.
He's been in Wisconsin quite a bit here on the Stalker Tour.
Well, Kamala Harris is there. They're stalking her in Kenosha. And, Rich, going to need your help back in the mothership if you could. Let's start with a little bit of the J.D. Vance sound. Rich, if you'd be so kind, let's play the first of the Vance sound bites, please.
Kamala Harris is going to run the campaign that she runs. I would say that I wish that she would do what I'm doing right now, which is talk to the media and actually answer some tough questions.
Now, did you hear the crowd?
I did hear a crowd.
There was a peanut gallery in Kenosha. It was so weird. It was like
was it a press conference or a...
Well, there were press, and he actually did allow, J.D. Vance did allow local press from the state of Wisconsin. I'm like, I wish I was there, because I might ask a tough question. Oh, J.D., how important is Wisconsin to your campaign? You got to ask the question, but if you only get one, that wouldn't be mine. But anyways, it was weird because J.D. Vance would answer the questions, but you could also hear, the reaction of the crowd in the background. And at one point, he was asked, what'd you think of the DNC last night? And the crowd booed. And then he said, yeah, my sentiments exactly. Boo! Let's play a little bit more of the Republicans' couch-loving second mate, J.D. Vance. Play it for the people, union voters. Cut 5.
If we don't tell people what to do, they're going to be able to buy cars that are made in America with American workers doing the jobs. And that is why I think we're going to win the majority of union and non-union workers in this country.
Think of the irony of sitting in Kenosha, Wisconsin, talking about the fact that, Trump's going to save jobs? I would just yell at him, Foxconn! What about Foxconn? Wasn't that going to be the eighth wonder of the world?
He said it. They were out there digging holes with golden shovels.
They were,
golden toilet.
Indeed, digging holes with the golden shovels. Supposed to be the eighth wonder of the world. But when they talk about it, because J.D. Vance's implication was they've offshored so many Wisconsin manufacturing jobs to China, but that's not going to happen under Trump. And didn't he come in to office, Trump, promising Carrier air conditioning? Well, you're not going to lose any more jobs now that I'm the president.
He promised that he would save the plant.
Freaking closed anyways.
Yeah.
So tariffs didn't exactly solve all the world's problems. It wasn't a panacea for everything that ailed the economy.
Tariffs are paid by the consumers, the American consumer.
Oh, slow down.
I'd hate to tell you how it actually works.
Ron Johnson said just yesterday it's really a way to punish China.
Oh,
I'm like, is
really?
that really how it
Is
works,
that-
Senator?
Apparently, and to what cost? And not only that, when you start the trade war, if I recall correctly, when this whole thing went down with Trump and his tariffs on China, there's retaliation. You know what I mean? Then they start doing some tariffs. I think it was the ginseng farmers in the state of Wisconsin. All of a sudden, well, we got to start subsidizing farming to a much greater degree than we were before to keep them whole, to make sure we can still have food on the
It was
tables.
like $30 billion.
It was like $30 billion. And I remember how everyone was so
How is that
upset
not socialism?
about the auto bailout. But at least those were loans that got paid back. Donald Trump, in the midst of this tariff war with China, subsidized the U.S. farmers to the tune of $20 or $30 billion. That was just given away.
GM's alive, and Osama bin Laden is dead.
I think we have one more from J.D. Vance in Kenosha talking about his Walls debate prep. If you would, please, Rich, let's play cut number 6.
Well, I found a good friend from back home who embellishes and lies a lot, and I'm having him stand in for Tim Walz. That's what we're doing during our debate. But look, what all kidding aside, what we're going to do is we're going to focus a lot on policy.
So what, you're doing your debate prep with the former President Donald Trump? Because that's a guy who's got how many? 30, 40,000 documented lies, and he cannot go to a press conference or a campaign rally without racking up a dozen, 2 dozen provable lies.
Well, they also talked about the fact that Tulsi Gabbard is actually joining the Trump campaign to help with the debate prep. He did brag a lot about the fact that he and his wife, when she was still his girlfriend, Usha, I believe, Mrs. Vance now Mrs. Vance, the first time they ever came to Wisconsin, you know what they did?
What?
They went to the
Mars
Wisconsin Cheese Castle.
Yeah, come on.
I
No.
swear to God. And he said, my kids, when I got the call after he told his kid to shut the hell up,
yeah,
apparently the most excited thing his kids were excited about, to go visit the Cheese Castle.
God love the Cheese Castle.
He said, have you been there? He's talking to his peanut gallery crowd and apparently the press. And he was very excited to tell them all about the Cheese Castle. And also, Eric Hudvey and Brian Style, those candidates appeared with J.D. Vance today in the place that Foxconn forgot. He was in Kenosha, Wisconsin, telling us how great Trump was for industry
so
and
good,
manufacturing.
So good.
Come back, Devil's Advocates. Live in Chicago. I'm going to steal one of those bull hats later. Come back with us live at the DNC. Many more fine guests. And your text as well, 844-967-2789. Jeff asked, could we call what JD is doing the creepy, unwanted job shadowing? I think we could. More Devils.
must be a higher love.
Malarkey. The devil's advocates invented malarkey.
The stars above. Without it, life
To
is a
the
wasted
Devil's Advocates Radio Show live at the DNC, the United Center in Chicago. Dom, we got another fine guest. He's here at the table with us. He is Mandela Barnes. Mandela, I'm forgetting what your official title is, other than friend of the Devils.
Former lieutenant governor, perhaps.
That's a nice one.
I think that works as a title.
Lieutenant
That is
Governor Mandela Barnes. Pleasure to see you,
LT
man.
forever, Mandela.
LT emeritus.
So LT Emeritus Barnes, let me ask you, first convention, man. What do you liking? What are you not liking about this convention?
It is my first convention. I'm liking a whole lot. Certainly loving energy. It is a reunion, getting back to see a whole bunch of friends. You all included. Chief among them, maybe.
Oh, thank you, Mandela.
So just getting to hang out, have
as
a good
long as
time.
we're on the first page somewhere, we're okay with that.
But seriously, having a good time, just reconnecting with folks and feeling the energy, feeling the vibe, and I truly feel like this is something special that's going on right now. Only thing I don't like is my bike got stolen yesterday.
Oh, no!
Yeah, I was bragging. I was on Maggie's show. I was bragging about my genius of bringing my bike down here because it's so easy to commute.
You know, somebody from the Trump campaign did that.
Point
they were
A to
listening.
point B. I'm like, these 1.5 mile commutes on a bike is perfect.
Yep.
Which it was. But yeah,
Oh, no.
I'm going to go home one bike fewer than I showed up with.
It's in J.D. Vance's airplane right now.
Yeah.
Someone from the campaign wanted to talk about the crime.
Yeah.
They were calling Chicago a battle zone.
Yeah.
That's what J.D. Vance,
That's wild.
he was in Kenosha today, and he called Chicago a battle zone. He said, the only reason why they're doing the DNC down there is so Tim Walz can finally live the war zone experience he talks about.
Oh, that is asinine.
And I'm thinking Trump and Vance don't need any Illinois voters. I realize they're going to lose this state, but still, you go and crap on every state that is blue, and apparently they do.
Hey, look, when you're scared, you say weird things,
Right.
and that's J.D. Vance. He's an afraid man.
Now, you've seen a lot of political campaigns. He is one of the worst candidates I've seen.
I
Mandela.
promise you, I expected so much more. I've said this before. He's doing a disservice to my generation. When he was picked, honestly, there was some fear when he was picked as the nominee. It's like, oh man, this guy might bring it. As soon as he opened his mouth on stage at the RNC, I said, oh. Okay, we're in there. We're good. We got a fighting chance still.
Well, and then it's the gift that keeps on giving, Mandela. It wasn't just that he opened his mouth at the RNC. It's that he's been recorded over the years saying absolutely racist, misogynist, terrible things.
He's a terrible speaker who says terrible things. There's no finesse. If you want it to work, you got to have some finesse. And he doesn't have it.
Mandela, true or false?
Mm-hmm.
J.D. Vance probably had sex with that couch.
Look, as a political standard, what goes on in people's bedrooms is none of my business.
Or their living rooms, as the case may be.
Whatever room.
The fact that he is
people's intimacy is not of my concern.
But he has been so
none
weird.
of your business.
None
right?
of my business.
I love the fact that, Michelle Obama, who's going to speak tonight here at the DNC, what was her take? It's when they go low, we go high.
Yeah. I mean, it's not that I'm going high on this one. I'm just avoiding that conversation.
But don't you think that tenor has changed a little bit? It was once upon a time the Republicans, Hillary Clinton was attacked so many times by Donald Trump.
Yeah.
But she would talk policy. She wouldn't go to the gutter with him. She wouldn't say, okay, little Don, or whatever the case may be. She never went low.
Yeah.
And suddenly, and I'm not implying that Tim Walz is in the gutter, but Tim Walz is having a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, Tim Walz is
with the political.
certainly having a lot of fun, and is rightfully so. I appreciate that he's doing it. He's still keeping it within bounds as well, because there's so much that is now in bounds, comparatively speaking, to the depths that they go to. So even if what he said 10 years ago may have been a cause for controversy, it's not at this point. And as many wild things as Trump has said, as many wild things as J.D. Vance has said, to make fun of the choices that J.D. Vance makes in his own life, I don't, that's not unfair right now.
It's interesting. I always thought Barack Obama a better man than pretty much any damn man I ever met in my life. He is better than me. I know he is.
Yeah.
Better dad, better politician, better everything. I want better people to run our country.
For sure. For sure.
Kamala Harris, I've met her. I find her to be incredibly intense, Mandela. I don't know if you've had the opportunity to interact with Kamala. Have you?
So my view of Kamala, years ago when it was only what I saw on TV, I thought she's very intense also. But having so many interpersonal interactions with her, she is such a personable person. I mean, I cannot tell you how I enjoy being around her. She gives me a hard time sometimes. We've built a rapport. So she's somebody.
Is it the baldness thing, Mandela?
It could be. Man.
That's my choice, isn't it? Mine less so.
It's not, the Lord's choice. But, I think that she is truly a much more personable person than folks, give her credit for. And I remember being at a smaller dinner with her last fall. I probably shouldn't even be talking about this, but she asked for open and honest feedback from people. And, one of the things was the Kamala who's showing up to this dinner right now is who needs to show up, in front of, Americans on the TV screen, because that is what will take you to the presidency. And I think that she took that to heart because more of it is starting to come out.
Folks, you're listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show live from the DNC in Chicago. Former Lieutenant Governor of the great state of Wisconsin, Mandela Barnes, our friend. Thank you, Mandela. Great to see you. What I love about Kamala Harris is what I'm seeing now, as I think was been held back. Perhaps again, it was the Biden administration. She's in the Biden administration. The Biden administration will kind of dictate the schedule. Let's call it. Now that this is,
I've been a number two before.
You know what I'm saying, right? But now this is her game. This is her thing, and what's coming through, the joy, Mandela. I mean, I had no idea how much I missed that feeling, that energy. It was always so negative before, and it's tough to talk about, Trump and the doom scrolling. You know what I'm saying? But all of a sudden, here comes this candidate who has just turned this whole thing in 180 degrees and talking about joy and talking about aspirational things, talking about service, and really, really contrasting not just philosophies between Democrats and MAGA, but between her and Donald Trump.
Yeah, about who we are as people.
Yeah.
What kind of world we want to live in? Who do we want to associate with? How do we want to build community with each other?
Mandela, you ran in a Senate race. Sorry to interrupt. Eric Hudvey. That guy's a terrible candidate too, man. I don't know if you saw him at the Slinger Speedway trying to do the Pledge of Allegiance. Oh, he is not ready for prime time.
I did not see that. He's certainly not ready for prime time. It totally just pushes back the narrative about being smart to make money.
Well, it's better to have rich parents. That's
rich parents.
Look at Trump. Look at Hudvey.
This is true.
If your parents are wealthy enough, it's hard to go broke.
Yeah.
I don't have that problem, Mandela. Our fine guest, Mandela Barnes, former Lieutenant Governor of the great state of Wisconsin. Mandela, your political heroes, man. I got a few political heroes. I'm hoping to bump into a few media sorts and a few politician sorts. You got anyone you admire, anyone you might go and take a selfie with?
I've had the chance to meet them. I've met Obama. That's certainly number one in terms of political heroes.
Any other names you'd like to drop for us? Dinnered with a Kamala.
Kamala.
You met Dom Crute.
Met you too.
Who else is on the list?
That's what I mean. I've been fortunate to have met those political heroes.
There's
already.
a saying, never meet your heroes.
Yeah.
I don't get the sense that that's something you came away with.
They didn't spend that much time with me.
Yeah.
They didn't show any faults.
Yeah. No.
You spend enough time with us, so you see a few faults, don't you, Mandela?
The luster is worn off.
I can't believe that. It never wore off for me. I still like you. Mandela, the political campaign really kicks off after Labor Day.
Yeah, for sure.
Do you anticipate having to roll this fall in the campaign? What is your role this fall? What's your motive, and what do you hope to do and get accomplished this
My role
fall?
won't be directly with the Harris campaign, Harris-Walz campaign. Sweet Lord. My work is going to be with Power to the Polls, focused on civic engagement, voter turnout, telling stories, making sure people know what is at stake, how to combat voter disinformation, also how to combat voter suppression efforts. That's where my focus is going to be on the independent side.
I saw Angela Lang, sorry to interrupt, Mandela. I saw Angela Lang from Black Leaders Organizing Communities a few months ago. Very hard door knock. She said it's a difficult environment.
Yeah.
I've seen her since. Seems like her attitude's changed about knocking on the doors. Mandela, how's it going? Obviously, it takes money to fund operations like this. But how's the enthusiasm? Are you getting the volunteers? Are you getting the money? Are you getting the enthusiasm?
So, folks, way more people have been calling to volunteer. And, I've said this one before. I've gotten texts from people who didn't even text me during my campaign who want to help out with, Kamala's race. So, folks are enthusiastic and excited. It's very real. It's easier to recruit volunteers, also easier to recruit organizers, and better responses on the doors already.
I got to tell you one very nice touch.
Yeah.
And we've known each other a few years, man. Every year on my birthday, you text me, not like a Facebook, whatever. I get an actual text from Mandela Barnes. It's a personal touch.
It's real.
And it's probably the most memorable message because Dom doesn't even bother. His birthday's like 2 days from mine. He's like, oh, it's almost my birthday. I can't even talk about your birthday. But I get a text from Mandela every year on June 12th, Dom.
You're a wonderful human being, man.
I appreciate y'all, man.
We appreciate you too, man. The Trump
Your
campaign.
wife had a birthday, didn't she?
Yeah. Thank you.
Birthdays are important.
Good politician and a good friend. The Trump campaign claims that they have they're getting success from the outreach to the African American community. I heard Ron Johnson talking about going on a black radio in Milwaukee, and they're getting
There's a party of Lincoln Mandela.
Great reception. As a young black man, Mandela, what's your sense of those kinds of statements coming out of the Republican Party?
Well, their idea of a great reception from the black community, given that they've probably had very few interactions with black people in general in regular life. If one person or two people say yes, then they consider that a success. And now I'm not going to make any look. I'm not going to make any excuses. I'm going to be very forthcoming in saying yes, there are challenges. There are a handful of black males here and there, nowhere near a majority, not even close to it. But there are some people who are Trump curious, Republican curious, understand that. We're doing everything we can to combat that. Most of it is misinformation and disinformation. But for folks who have, never, gotten a date before, if they show up and somebody gives them the phone number, then all of a sudden they assume that they're, some sort of Casanova.
Well, and if some people are engaged, I mean, they may be misguided, and perhaps there's some additional information that could come to light. But at least those are folks that are already, trying to do something, trying to be engaged, and at least folks that would potentially be able to come out and vote for a different team if, the more new information comes to light.
Yeah.
The National Association of Black Journalists interview with Donald Trump, I thought was just to continue more telling of how this man is. If he's in a corner, if he's being contested by anyone, and especially a strong black woman or a strong woman in general, it is nasty. Everyone's nasty. And I think, again, that contrast to what the Kamala Harris campaign is about joy and about hope and about service and what can we do, what kind of country do we want to live in, it's really, really difficult for me to kind of feel how someone could be on the fence between those kinds of messages and philosophies and contrasts to say, well, yeah, I want to be with the anger and the chaos and the hatred versus what else other people are talking about.
Yeah, I mean, he has made his entire political career off being, just spewing bile, like just being one of the worst people, and it's brought out the worst in many other people in our society. And I hate that it's gotten that way, but I truly believe that more people are over it than people who are willing to go along with it.
Mandela, is the American dream dead?
Nope.
Do you think we will see this ticket, Kamala Harris and Tim Walz? Will she inspire a new vision of an American dream? If that makes sense.
I am certainly hoping so, and I'm going to work hard as I can to make that happen.
Former Lieutenant Governor of the great state of Wisconsin, still, I hope, friend of the Devil's Advocates.
Sure.
Although, well, they say, I won't even go there. Mandela Barnes, thanks for putting up with us, man. Really appreciate your company and your time. Nice to see you.
Hey, good to see you,
folks. We are the Devil's Advocates live at the DNC in Chicago, Illinois. We're going to make way for the wrap-up show at 6 o'clock, hosted by Todd Alba and Terry Bell. And then at 7, we got Bill Press joining us. We're going to be doing all the speeches, all the coverage from here until Barack Obama. Later tonight, Kamala Harris in Milwaukee. We've seen some pictures, man. That place is a rock concert, and it's hours before they go off. More Devil's Advocates. Come on back live at the DNC. Dom Crute and you.
Bring me a higher
The Devil's Advocates, radio for the 99%.
And welcome back to the Devil's Advocates radio show live from the DNC in Chicago. Find us on the Twitters at Devil Radio and, of course, on the Facebook at Devil's Advocates Radio.
Dom, I'm going to thank our fine guest list right now before I forget, because there's been a lot. It's been a fine show. I want to thank John Fugelsang, our friend from Sirius XM. Want to thank our own Earl Ingram from Civic Media. Listen, 8 to 10 a.m. on WAUK 540. Catch Earl's show or check your local listings. He might be playing in your market as well. The fine Attorney General, great state of Wisconsin, Josh Call, joined us here. Ben Wickler, the Democratic Party of Wisconsin chair. My senator, Diane Hesselbein from Middleton, Wisconsin. She is the Senate Minority Leader, great state of Wisconsin. We had pollster Paige Gardner from PSG Consulting, Mandela Barnes, most recently. Thank you to Mandela. I feel like I'm still forgetting people. Still, and let's not forget.
But wait,
there's more. Ginzu Knives and Bill Press tonight at 7 o'clock joining us as we shift seats down. We slide over to WCPT side and we anchor the live coverage all night long. We're going to try and do a little bit of Kamala in Milwaukee, and I've seen some pictures. Maddie from WRPQ and Civic Media is there today, and she was taking pictures. Jorge is up in the nosebleeds as well. It was packed in the Fiserv Forum at 3 o'clock this afternoon.
There's crowds gathering. It's a
thousands
huge crowd,
of people
huge
outside.
lines outside of the Forum.
It is going to be a party, and our understanding is Kamala Harris and Tim Walz will give their speeches, and then the Obamas are going to be featured. It's going to be a watch party, and we're going to bring it all to you right here on the radio, WCPT 820 AM, KTNF 950 AM, and of course, across the Civic Media Network in the great state of Wisconsin. Dom, it's going to be a hell of a good time. I hope you all
Keep
tune in.
listening. Stick around. Some of the highlights from last night, Crute, AOC. It's. I find it very interesting. We're sitting here, we're watching it, we're listening to it, but then I sleep on it. I get up the next day and I'm reading some of the headlines, some of the articles, and looking at some of the video. It's like, AOC really lit it up last night.
She's a rising star. Let's play some of that sound in case you didn't stay up late last night. We got AOC talking about Trump, the union buster.
Scab.
Rich, if you would, please play Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, cut 9, please.
And I, for one, am tired of hearing about how a two-bit union buster thinks of himself as more of a patriot than the woman who fights every single day.
The passion she brought to that stage, man, she was fired up, she was gesticulating, and she was dynamic. Young rising star of the Democratic Party. I think everybody knows that.
Well, and she was throwing.
But she was great last
She was throwing daggers that were hitting the mark. I think the words that were coming out of her mouth were resonating with me, certainly. One more from AOC. Cut 10, please, Rich.
Donald Trump would sell this country for $1 if it meant lining his own pockets and greasing the palms of his Wall Street friends.
You preach it, sister.
This is for real. Hillary Rodham Clinton also last night, she had some knocks on Trump as well, talking about the convictions. Again, a worthy.
She was just telling the truth.
Yeah, I know. And Trump's losing his mind. Let's hear what the secretary had to say. Cut number 11.
Donald Trump fell asleep at his own trial. And when he woke up, he made his own kind of history. The first person to run for president with 34 felony convictions.
And at that point, the crowd here in Chicago last night interrupted Hillary. Lock him up. Lock him up. The chance it had him. She basked in it for just a moment.
I mean, maybe
just a moment.
Maybe a moment longer than she should have, but you can totally understand wanting to drink from that well for just a tad. A couple more from Clinton. Cut number 12, please, Rich.
I want my grandchildren and their grandchildren to know I was here at this moment, that we were here, and that we were with Kamala Harris every step of the way. This is our time, America.
And the Dems, the DNC, they got him, Trump, on the run. Cut number 13, please.
He is lying about Kamala's record. He's mocking her name and her laugh. Sounds familiar.
Does.
Right?
But we have him on the run now.
Running on empty. A couple from the president, Joe Biden, talking about the economy. Again, I think this is important to highlight the president, his record on the economy.
It was his night last night.
It was. Cut number 14, please, Rich.
Jobs, record small business growth, record high stock market, record high 401ks, wages up, and inflation down, way down, and continuing to go down.
Yes, those are things. Those are facts. Republicans, you could repeat them if you wanted to. Let's jump down to cut number 16. Trump never built a thing.
Donald Trump promised infrastructure week every week for 4 years, and he never built a damn thing.
Yeah. Let's do one more, two more. Cut number 17, Kamala's choice.
Selecting Kamala was the very first decision I made when I became our nominee. And it was the best decision I made my whole career.
It was a good one, but he made one more to step aside. Cut number 18.
It's been the honor of my lifetime to serve as your president. I love the job, but I love my country more.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you, Joe. The crowd ended the evening chanting last night. Thank you, Joe. Look, the Wisconsinites on the TV now in the bowl wearing their cheese heads, as has become the tradition. Dom, I should have brought my cheese head down. Thank you all for listening. Stick around. Todd Alba and Terry Bell do a wrap-up live from the DNC next.